Hey guys! So today I want to talk about lying as it pertains to veganism, specifically Freelee and her claims regarding metabolic damage, whatever she's calling it now. It's been metabolic damage for a while, I guess. I think we tend to assume that people are lying, particularly when it's someone we don't like or some really out there claim. We tend to just assume they're lying versus, misremembering or being mistaken or even just being delusional. Particularly when it comes to like flat earthers. That seems to be the new thing now. I'm just seeing it everywhere and it's really interesting to me. I'm watching all these videos. For those interested, I just learned about a channel called CoolHardLogic. He has a video on that, as well as gravity, people who deny gravity. Just really weird things. I don't understand the desire to believe something like that. Like, I get anti-vax because, people are misinformed. They don't understand vaccines. They sound really scary. They're just trying to do what's right for their kids, and they think that not vaccinating them is the right thing to do. But, like, the flat earthers and the gravity doesn't exist. Like, why would you... Why are you so intent on believing something like that? It's very strange to me. Kind of going off on a tangent there, but I think you know what I mean. I think it can just kind of be easier to believe that people are just flat out lying, particularly, again, if it's someone you don't like. A lot of people really don't like Freelee, and it can just be easier to think that she is just straight up lying when it comes to metabolic damage. And I've accused, Freelee and Durian Rider and Harley of lying before, and just outright slandering people, and there, of course, is evidence of that. But I think when it comes to the metabolic claims, at least in terms of Freelee, I've always kind of assumed the latter. Not that she's lying, but that she's kind of convinced herself that it's true, and that her experience is true. Her supposed experience of that it took 6 years or 10 years, whatever. I mean, I've kind of heard different things, but 6 to 10 years for her to, lose the weight. And that's kind of her proof that metabolic damage exists. I think at the end of the day, she can always look at herself and say, wow, well, I'm thin. And of course, we know anecdotes, aren't evidence, but I think maybe, I'm speculating obviously, but I think maybe for her, that can be kind of enough. She can always refer to herself and say, well, I eat a lot of fruit, I eat a lot of calories. Yeah, I do a lot of exercise, but that's beside the point, apparently. But, I eat all this food and I'm obviously thin, so there you go. Of course, again, as I said, anecdotes aren't evidence, but even more interesting is that Freelee's anecdote, it doesn't even appear to be correct, really. Again, this idea that it took her 6 to 10 years, that she got fat at first eating unlimited calories of, fruit, whatever, and then it took her 6 to 10 years to get slim, right? So I knew of Freelee very early on. I think we started eating low-fat raw, 80-10, 10-10, whatever you want to call it, around the same time. I don't know if she was on vegsource.com, had an 80 to 10-10 board. This was before they kicked off Doug Graham for Doug Graham, for the fasting stuff. If y'all remember, that was a few years ago. But before that, Doug Graham ran an 80-10-10 board on VegSource. And I remember seeing Harley there, and I don't know if Freelee was there or not. I honestly can't remember. But yeah, I remember, the start of 30 Bananas a Day. I remember her blog, which I read. Some posts on there. It was actually what convinced me to try at the time, it was 100% raw. They were definitely anti-cooked food, she and Harley. And to eat, at least 2,500 calories a day or whatever. My point is that I don't ever remember Freelee being fat. Ever. That was the reason why I was convinced, as stupid as it sounds, by her blog, because all of her photos, she was thin, and I was so obsessed with weight loss, and I wanted to be thin, and that was convincing to me. There was no evidence of her ever being fat. She was bigger than she is now, but I mean, she's incredibly lean right now. If you look at her arms in particular, they have that sort of divot under the shoulder. Her arms are just incredibly thin. So she was bigger than she is now, but that's by no means fat. I think the biggest difference was her face. Her face was, and I believe she might still have these videos up, I'm not sure, but she used to have a video It may be like her oldest video on the channel of her face, and she looks very different. Her face is, she's got the chipmunk cheeks, she's got the little chubby cheeks, and I think that is, again, she was a little bit larger, not saying she was fat, nowhere close to that. So I think that's part of it, but also I think it's just age. I think it's pretty common for women to slim down in the face as they age. You know, if you look at a 20-year-old versus a 30-year-old, the same 20-year-old, you know, versus when they're 30, you can see that difference, even if they were slim as a 20-year-old. So according to Freelee, you know, she was fat during these years, and you know, that when she had the chipmunk cheeks, as she's shown in videos, zoomed in on her face, you know, that's when she was fat.
So this is some video from my trip across Australia back in 2008. It was about a 40-day bike trip. I averaged around 60 Ks per day. And I wanted to show you this footage to show you where I've come from, like a chipmunk packing nuts.
We actually see what her body looked like. She clearly was not fat.
I find it convenient that she specifically makes sure not to show her full body throughout the entire video. I actually have some pictures of what she looked like during her bike ride, which seemed to show quite a different scenario. Yes, she did have her chipmunk cheeks, but her body was quite slim at the time.
I think only someone who is delusional would look at her and say, you're fat. It's kind of crazy. So is she just delusional? Again, am I right in my kind of assumption that she's just delusional about this? Well, it doesn't seem so. So a few videos have been done by a couple of different ladies, a couple of different channels. I'll say their names here, and shethrowsshade, and I forgot the other one, and I'll put their links to the videos and their channels in the description. They have done some pretty amazing investigative journalism, something that some other, shall we say, drama channels could learn from, I would say. Yeah, so they have uncovered some pretty interesting information, mostly pertaining to that blog that I mentioned before, Freelee's blog, which I used to follow, that she has now deleted. Well, of course, nothing is ever really deleted from the internet, and you can go to the Wayback Machine, which they did, and they went and checked out these posts from her blog. One thing, and again, this is all from Freelee's blog in her own words, that the weight she gained, number one, it wasn't much weight at all. It wasn't, 50 pounds or whatever else. We're seeing some, someone like Julia Boer, who just breaks my heart. That interview with she and Harley is just, I couldn't even watch the whole thing. It's really disturbing to me, but whatever. But, someone like that who has gained really a lot of weight. Freelee gained like 6 pounds.
Like I said in part 1 of this blog, I started my low-fat raw vegan journey at 148 pounds. In the first 3 months, that crept up to 154 pounds as my body relaxed after the years of drug, stimulant, and cooked food abuse. I don't think she sees it as cooked food abuse anymore, but okay. And calorie restriction. Not saying that this will happen to everyone. Most people lose weight initially. After a few months, I was at 125 pounds, and that's where I'm at today.
So she did apparently gain some weight, but even more egregious is that it only took her a few months, in her own words, to lose weight, and to lose more weight than that, I think like 30-something pounds. Only took her a few months, not 6 years, not 10 years, a few months. Then there's other stuff as well. She has a video from, I think like last year sometime, I can't remember, with she and Harley, where she's talking about, she's referencing another video that is supposedly, from an earlier time period, but actually if you go see the video, it's actually from a later time period. Then there are blog posts that she says are from an earlier time period in her book, and it's actually from like 3 years later in time.
After cross-referencing the table of contents with some of the topics of her posts, I began to get a little bit suspicious. I managed to obtain a copy of her book by completely legal means, and actually decided to have a look at the wording, and it seems like the blog entries Amarhx found were the ones that she had in her book. The only problem is that Freelee claims that these were from November 2006 on her website and in her book, but They're from November 2009.
So this is very clear manipulation of facts and timelines. This to me doesn't seem like delusion at that point, right? It seems like pretty clear intentional manipulation at that point. Does it really matter? I mean, does it really matter if Freelee is deluded or lying? At the end of the day, I think we can look at the evidence ourselves and come to the conclusion, which is the most important thing. You know, Freelee's going to do what Freelee's going to do. I don't think she's going to give up this metabolic damage thing anytime soon. I hope she does. That would be great, but it's her big selling point, you know, and it's a great selling point. You can eat as many calories as you want and you'll be super slim. So I don't see her really giving this up again anytime soon. But we kind of, I think I talked about this in the vegan cheetah video. You know, you can't really expect YouTubers like myself even, you know, to not be tempted by money, right? To not be tempted by quantity over quality in terms of content and things like that. Like you as a viewer or me as a viewer viewing other channels, like we kind of have to take the initiative and stop supporting channels that are doing things like that. I think it's the same here. We kind of have to look at the evidence and decide for ourselves. And the evidence, you know, whether she's deluded or lying, the evidence is pretty clear that she did not gain tons of weight. There's just no evidence of that whatsoever, and then lost it over a period of years. Where is that evidence? It just doesn't exist. And again, the other evidence that we've had like forever regarding metabolic damage and regarding calories in and calories out, it doesn't support this metabolic damage theory. I have a video on that from I think like 2 years ago or something that you can watch. I'll link up here. And I think it's unfortunate, you know, I've watched a few of Freelee's recent vlogs. Obviously I watched the one with the biodynamic thing, which I was glad I did. I was like, oh cool, now I have a chance, because I actually did know about biodynamic to some degree. My partner had told me about it and I was like, what the hell is that? How does that exist? So that was pretty cool. It gave me a chance to like talk about it and to actually get views. I know some of you accused me of clickbait, but hey, it got you to click on the video and hopefully you learned something. So, oh yeah, so I've been watching her vlogs, and you know, I think unlike Harley is just unlikable as a person, and he promotes just really terrible things beyond the metabolic damage. I don't know if Freelee, you know, promotes some of that stuff, particularly with regard to like mental illness and disability and all that kind of stuff, and gay being a choice, and just really crazy stuff that some of you have messaged me about. And you know, I don't know if Freelee has expressed that. I haven't heard her express that, at least not to the degree that he does. And if you look at his channel, I mean, he doesn't really seem to have much of a fan base, at least anymore. I mean, his channel is losing subs. It's amazing how many views he gets, and yet he is still losing subscribers. And I think because so many people watch him just for the controversy, just to see what he's going to say next. You know, if you look at his Patreon, how poor his Patreon has done, I think that's really a reflection of that. I don't think many people are watching Harley because they're really a fan of Harley and what he says. I think they're watching for, you know, the controversy and to, you know, make fun of him or whatever else. Whereas I think Freelee, I think she has a fair number of people like that too, but she obviously has a fan base, and I think there's a reason for that. If you watch a Harley video and a Freelee video back to back, particularly one of her vlogs, I mean, she's way more likable and reasonable than he is, particularly when she's on her own. My point is, I think if she stopped with the metabolic damage stuff and this other pseudoscience-y shit, and started eating and promoting, or at least promoting like a more normal diet, that would just be so awesome. I think it'd be awesome for her. I think it'd be awesome for veganism. You know, I think she does, you know, people have suggested that like she doesn't really care about animals. I don't believe that. I think she was with Durian Rider for a long time. I mean, for those of you who saw the early videos with her, you know, she really seemed like a different person. I think she just needs to get away from him. She needs to stop talking about him, all these accusations between the two of them. Just stop all of that, and stop with the metabolic damage stuff. You know, I think she would still do well on YouTube, just as a vegan YouTuber who's not constantly controversial and showing her body in the shower, showing herself taking a shower. It's really weird to watch her vlogs sometimes. It's just so weight focused. I think if she got away from that, I think she could really be a good voice for veganism. I think what she tried to do on Patreon, you know, I don't agree with the whole she's trying to scam people. I think that's, people just hate Freelee so much. They just want to find more things to hate her for. And I don't think that's a reason. I don't think that's one. I think that was a cool idea. And I think she's right. You know, yes, Patreon does take a cut, of course, obviously. But at the same time, you know, she's right that you're more likely to get people to donate via that than to donate on their own. There's a reason why fundraisers are done. There's a reason why you have these huge galas. It's like, oh my God, why can't they just, instead of spending all this money on the food, why can't they just give it to the cause? It's like, well, you know, it's the reason why you have all these runs for cancer, these walk runs for cancer. They work, right? So I think she's right on that point. I don't think that's something, I think she's actually doing a nice thing there, at least trying to do a nice thing. And for people to criticize her and question her motives, it's like, how is that even helpful? I guess my point is that this video was really for people who are still in the metabolic damage thing or still kind of trying to cling on to it. Because again, you want to believe, as I did, that you can eat, you know, tons of fruit, tons of carbs, and lose weight. Again, the person promoting this and saying that it worked for her, it doesn't seem like it actually happened that way. So maybe, hopefully you will find that convincing. And again, watch the videos that I linked below from the two channels for more info on that. Really, really telling. And also, you know, maybe for Freelee, if she watches this, you know, I don't know. I think, again, I don't think, you know, Harley's channel, I think, would die. If he stopped doing all the controversial stuff, his channel would die. I really believe that. I think his channel is already dying, though, to be honest. I don't think there's much he can do about that. But Freelees, I don't think so. I think there's more to her than just controversy. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to subscribe. Yeah, I'll have a new video. I should have one soon. I'm recording one literally right now after this. So I should have it up like a couple days after this one. So now I'm gonna record it and then like somehow lose the footage, or my computer is gonna just burst into flames, or my editing software is gonna stop working. Something's gonna happen and the video is not gonna be up for like a week.